Picture this scenario carefully because it's more common than most men realize. You finally meet a woman who seems perfect. She's everything you ever imagined: beautiful, intelligent, engaging, and full of life. You're not just interested, you're captivated. And so you step up. You go above and beyond to treat her like a queen. You text her first every morning. You ask how her day is. You plan thoughtful dates, remember the small details she mentions, and make sure she knows without a shadow of a doubt that she's deeply valued. You act according to everything you've been taught growing up about how a good man treats a woman, with affection, loyalty, and consistency. But then something begins to shift. She starts responding slower. Her texts lose warmth. She becomes harder to read, harder to reach, and emotionally more distant. It happens so subtly that you can't pinpoint the moment it began. But suddenly the woman who once seemed thrilled to be with you now seems bored. Your instinct is to double down, show her more love, be even more available, try harder to prove your worth. And yet nothing you do brings her closer. The more effort you put in, the further she seems to drift. Eventually, she either ends it or fades away completely. And you're left sitting in silence, asking yourself the question every good man eventually faces: what did I do wrong? Here's the brutal reality. You didn't do anything wrong in the traditional sense. You were kind, respectful, loving, but you misunderstood the core engine of attraction. You believed love is maintained through consistency and comfort, but romantic desire doesn't operate on logic. It's not fueled by safety, it's fueled by tension. The moment a woman feels she has completely won you, when she knows there's no risk, no challenge, no unpredictability left in the dynamic, the emotional excitement begins to fade. It's not because she's manipulative or ungrateful, it's because certainty kills curiosity, and curiosity is the lifeblood of passion. The men who keep her attention aren't the cold or toxic ones. They're the ones who understand that a relationship requires polarity, masculine grounding met with feminine mystery. Until you learn to lead with quiet strength, calm detachment, and unshakable self-worth, you'll keep reliving the same painful story, being the nice guy who gets left behind while wondering why the man who gives her less seems to keep her more. 2. The biology of attraction. Why nice isn't enough. Attraction is not logical. This is perhaps the most difficult truth for the rational, good-hearted man to accept. You've been told that if you're kind, emotionally available, generous, and respectful, love will follow. But romantic attraction is not built in the logical part of the brain. It's rooted in the primal, instinctual part. And women, like men, are still deeply influenced by millions of years of evolutionary psychology. For most of human history, survival wasn't guaranteed. A woman had to choose a partner not based on romantic ideals, but on instincts, someone who could protect her, provide, lead, and remain strong in the face of adversity. This is where the concept of hypergamy comes in, an often misunderstood but deeply embedded biological tendency. Hypergamy is a woman's subconscious drive to seek the highest value mate available to her, not just in terms of finances or looks, but in terms of overall masculine presence, leadership, emotional control, social dominance, and internal confidence. Even in today's modern world where survival isn't threatened daily, this instinct remains alive and well. It's not about being rich or famous, it's about carrying yourself like a man of value, one who doesn't need validation and doesn't place a woman on a pedestal to feel complete. So when you approach a woman with kindness but no edge, with availability but no mystery, with admiration but no boundaries, you unconsciously signal that you're seeking approval rather than offering leadership. You might be the sweetest man she's ever met, but if she senses that you don't see yourself as her equal, or worse, that you view her as someone above you, her attraction will quietly dissolve. She may appreciate your gestures, compliment your heart, and genuinely enjoy your company, but her body and emotions won't lie. Desire cannot exist without polarity, and that polarity is destroyed when a man chases, submits, or loses himself trying to win her over. What her instincts crave is not constant reassurance. It's the calm, centered man who respects her but does not need her to validate his worth. That is the man who triggers her biological attraction at its deepest core. 3. Perceived value versus real value, the confidence gap. Most men spend their lives chasing external symbols of success, wealth, status, luxury, aesthetics. They grind to get the expensive car, they sculpt the perfect body, they wear high-end brands, thinking it'll make them more desirable. And while these things may get attention, they rarely create lasting attraction. Why? Because real value isn't about your possessions, it's about your presence. It's not what you have that captivates people, it's how you carry what you have. You can own the flashiest suit in the room, but if you walk in with uncertain energy, you'll be invisible. On the flip side, a man in basic clothes with quiet confidence will often command more attention. That's the difference between real value and perceived value. Here's the truth that many men never hear. Attraction begins in the mind before the eyes. It's not just about what she sees, it's about what she feels when she's around you. If you radiate calm authority, emotional stability, and self-worth, you create a gravitational pull that no money can buy. That's why you'll see men with six-figure salaries and perfectly curated Instagram pages still getting ignored or ghosted because they haven't developed inner confidence. They try to prove their worth, and that energy repels. They seek validation, they chase approval, and they confuse performance for presence. Meanwhile, there are men who may not stand out physically or financially, but they own themselves. They walk into a room with a quiet belief, I belong here. They don't seek permission to take up space, they don't flinch under pressure. They don't need anyone to choose them because they've already chosen themselves. That mindset, that unwavering self-respect, is perceived as high value. It sends a silent but powerful message. I have options. I don't need to chase. I am the prize. And ironically, that's what draws women in. Confidence isn't arrogance. It's not about thinking you're better than anyone else. It's the deep knowing that your worth isn't up for negotiation. When a man embodies that, he becomes rare. And in a world full of insecure overcompensators, rarity becomes irresistible. That's the confidence gap. It's not a look, it's an energy. And once you master it, people won't just be interested in you, they'll feel lucky to be chosen by you. 4. Mystery creates obsession, the power of uncertainty. There's a fundamental law in human psychology. We value what we're unsure we can have. The moment something or someone becomes too available, we begin to take it for granted. This principle applies even more intensely when it comes to romantic attraction. Why? Because attraction is not built on comfort, it's built on tension, and tension only exists when there's an element of uncertainty. Too many men make the mistake of laying all their cards on the table too soon. They pour out affection, constantly text back instantly, always say yes, and are emotionally available 24/7. In doing so, they remove all sense of challenge or mystery. They give her certainty, and certainty kills the chase. It kills the fantasy. It tells her, you've already won me over, there's nothing left to earn. And once there's nothing left to earn, her curiosity fades, her investment drops, and the obsession dissolves. But when your attention is selective, when you are warm but not overly eager, engaged but not constantly chasing, something very different happens. She starts to wonder. She begins to analyze your words, replay your tone, overthink your text delays, and ask herself, is he into me? What's going on in his mind? Why do I feel so drawn to him but can't figure him out? This isn't mind games. This is the natural dance of polarity. Obsession thrives in spaces where questions exist. When she can't fully define you, she becomes intrigued. When she doesn't know exactly how you feel, she leans in more. That mystery creates magnetism. It makes her feel like she's chasing, like she's trying to earn more of you. That's when desire spikes. Understand this. Your attention is a form of emotional currency. When you give it away freely, it becomes worthless. But when you ration it, when it's earned, not expected, it skyrockets in value. You stop being just another nice guy. You become a puzzle, a challenge. And people don't forget puzzles. They obsess over solving them. The goal is not to play cold or pretend you're disinterested. It's to maintain an internal sense of control over your emotional output. Be warm, be real, but don't be predictable, don't be easy. The man who understands this balance will always hold the power of attraction, because mystery isn't just magnetic, it's unforgettable. 5. Tests, power dynamics, and frame holding the line. Whether men realize it or not, every woman tests a man's strength, not because she's playing games, but because her biology demands it. These are not always conscious acts. She may not even be aware she's doing it, but deep down she needs to feel the presence of a man who is grounded, immovable, and emotionally secure. When she cancels last minute, becomes moody for no reason, makes a sarcastic comment, or seems to flirt with another man in front of you, she's subconsciously trying to find out, can he stay calm under pressure? Can he remain unshaken in the face of feminine chaos? These tests aren't meant to destroy your confidence. They're a mirror reflecting whether you're truly anchored in your masculine frame. Failing these tests doesn't always look like disaster. It can be subtle. When you react emotionally, over-explain yourself, get angry, chase her, or try to soothe her at the cost of your self-respect, you reveal something crucial, that her approval controls you. You've placed your emotional state in her hands, and whether you realize it or not, that instantly makes you less attractive. Women don't want to lead emotionally, they want to trust the man who does. When she feels that your sense of self rises and falls based on how she feels that day, a deep discomfort sets in. She may not verbalize it, but internally, her trust begins to erode. A high-value man, however, does not flinch. He does not respond to every mood swing with panic or apologies. He doesn't argue to prove his worth or beg to be understood. Instead, he remains grounded. He speaks calmly, stands on his values, and doesn't betray his boundaries to appease anyone. His silence is not passive, it's powerful. His presence says, I don't need to control you, but I will not be controlled. This man doesn't need to dominate with volume or aggression. He commands respect simply because he respects himself. This is what it means to hold frame, to keep your composure, integrity, and masculine core intact, regardless of external storms. And here's the paradox: the more you hold your frame, the more deeply she trusts you. Not just emotionally, but biologically. Women are drawn to strength, not bravado, not performance. Real strength, the kind that doesn't waver under pressure. When you pass her tests, not by playing games, but by staying rooted in who you are, she relaxes. Her guard drops. Her feminine energy flows more freely. Why? Because she senses that she's safe with you. You're not reactive. You're not easily shaken. You're not trying to get her. You already have yourself. And that's the kind of energy women chase. A man who doesn't chase, but who leads, quietly and confidently. 6. The balance of love and attraction. Be the prize expanded. One of the biggest misunderstandings men fall into is assuming that love and attraction are the same thing. That if a woman loves you, she'll always desire you. But the truth is far more complex. Love and attraction are two different forces. Love brings comfort, safety, and emotional bonding. It is nurturing, familiar, and often rooted in stability. But attraction is something else entirely. It thrives on tension, unpredictability, and the unknown. While love wants to hold, Attraction wants to chase. Love can exist without passion, but passion cannot exist without polarity. And too often, men unknowingly extinguish attraction by leaning too far into comfort and abandoning their edge. This happens most when a man tries to secure the relationship by giving more of himself than is needed, over-communicating, over-explaining, over-committing to prove his value. He becomes too available, too agreeable, too emotionally exposed, thinking that this level of openness will deepen the connection, but instead it often dulls the dynamic. A woman who once felt magnetically pulled to him starts to feel emotionally saturated, like there's nothing left to wonder about or discover. She no longer feels the need to impress, to earn, to be inspired. And slowly, attraction dies, not because he wasn't enough, but because he stopped being a challenge. Here's a deeper truth. A woman may still deeply love a man who has lost his edge. She may cook for him, support him, and speak fondly of him, but she no longer longs for him. And that longing is the difference between friendship and desire. When a man gives up his individuality to become her emotional caretaker, he removes the very friction that makes him sexually intriguing. He trades his masculine frame for emotional fusion, and while the bond may still exist, the spark fades into something dull and passive. The men who remain magnetic over time understand that they don't need to be everything to a woman. In fact, being everything often leads to being seen as ordinary. Instead, they become someone of value outside the relationship, grounded in a mission, purpose, or passion that fuels their life. They don't orbit their partner, they orbit their higher path. And by doing so, they create an energetic force field that naturally pulls her in. She sees him as complete, not needy, present, not possessive. She doesn't just feel love, she feels admiration, and admiration paired with sexual polarity keeps attraction alive for years. Attraction, at its core, is emotional chemistry sparked by contrast, masculine and feminine energy in dynamic balance. When a man stands firm in his frame, not rigid or cold, but rooted, driven, and focused, he awakens a woman's feminine nature. She becomes more radiant, more expressive, more emotionally alive around him. Not because he controls her, but because his energy gives her the freedom to be fully herself. And that's the secret. A woman doesn't want a man who needs her to be his source of identity. She wants a man who already knows who he is and invites her into that world. So if you want to reignite attraction, stop chasing it. Attraction isn't earned through overexposure or emotional catering. It's sparked through presence, purpose, and mystery. Be unpredictable in the right way. Stay busy with your mission. Set strong boundaries. Speak less. Lead more. Let her feel your absence sometimes so that she can feel your presence more deeply. Remember, women are drawn to men who make them feel. And mystery, edge, and purpose are powerful emotional triggers. In the end, never forget this. You are the prize. Not because you're trying to convince her of it, but because you've built yourself into a man she can't help but admire. A man who loves with strength, leads with clarity, and lives with meaning. When you live like that, she doesn't just want you, she respects you. And that's the foundation of lasting desire.